We are going to work on an example for the fourth category of the hypothesis test. So for this one, I would recommend that you would read the question, pause the video right now and read the question, and then come back and look at the rest of the solution that I'm going to write down on the board. So you will see that we are working on the fourth category, as I said, and in the question, we are looking for the proportion of our products, and we don't want the proportion to exceed 0.05. So what are we going to do is that we are going to, I'm going to write down here, I'm going to read the, while I'm reading the question, it's like that. So first we are on the fourth category, right? And when we are on the fourth category, the parameter of interest is proportion. So I would say that the step one, the parameter of interest is my proportion. So step number two is that we want to find out our null hypothesis. So the null hypothesis, because we want to we want the fraction of the defective products. We don't want it to be more than 0.05. So we would say our null hypothesis, our proportion is equal to 0.05. So that's going to be my null hypothesis. For the alternative hypothesis, we said that we don't want the fraction of the defective products we don't want it to be more than 0.05. So it means that we doesn't want it to exceed. When you read the question, is that it's written does not exceed some numbers. So we would say the alternative hypothesis is that our P, right, the proportion that we are looking for, we want to be less than this number. It shouldn't be, we don't want it to exceed this number, so it should be less than this number, right? So that's going to be my alternative hypothesis. The next one is that we want to choose our alpha from the question. You know that our alpha is 0.05. Step number 5 is the appropriate test statistics. So for the test statistics, we are going to use the same equation that we had in the previous video on the when we were learning about the fourth category. So it's going to be our, like we would say, Z null. It's going to be equal to the x minus np null divided by the square root of the value of the np null times 1 minus p null. So that's going to be my test statistics here. So after writing down the test statistics, so when you read the question, you can see that what's the value of xn and the p null. X is 4, n is 200, and the p null is like 5%, right? So the proportion that we said. So the next step is that to write down the rejection criteria. So the rejection region is that we are going to reject H null if our Z null. So here we want to be careful. It's one-sided. So when it's one-sided, we are working with the alpha, not half of the alpha. So when we are looking for the rejection criteria, we would say that region, we would say if our Z null is less than, right, minus Z of the alpha, which is 0.05. And so we need to go to the Z table and read the value of the Z with the alpha. So when we are looking at the Z table, it's like this. So we have our Z values here, right? and then we have the alpha here on the body of the table. So we are looking for the alpha is 0.5. So the way that we would need to do is that you need to find out 0.05 in your table, in the body of your table, and then read the related value of the z. So when we look at for the alpha 0.05, the value that we would see is 1.645. So here, so the value, this value is going to be minus 1.645. Because we are working with the negative one, right? So it's like that. We are, if you look at here, in fact, it's like that. You have your alpha of the 5% here, and this is your z null, which is equal to 1. Here is 0, right? So it's going to be negative number of that. So it's going to be minus, so I'm going to write down minus z of the alpha, which is equal to minus 1.645. Okay, so here we have our rejection area. Number 7 is the calculation. So for this one, for the calculation part, we need to find out that for x, n, and p null, right? So then we can, in this equation, we can find out the value of the z null. So here, when you read the question, your x is equal to 4, n is equal to n is equal to 200, and p null is 0.05. When you put all of these numbers, substitute these numbers in this equation, which is written on step number 5, you can find out the value of the z null. So the value of the z null is going to be minus 1.95. Okay, so step number 8 is that we want to make the conclusion. So for making the conclusion, we said that we need to compare z null and the value of the z null that we found with the value of the z at the alpha. So what's going to happen is that we would say here our z null, which is equal to minus 1.95. When you look at this, it's less than z at the alpha. So this value is less than this minus z alpha. It's less than 645. So when we have this, it's like that my z null is somewhere here, so I would reject the null hypothesis. So when we reject the null hypothesis, here is like that we can conclude that the process fraction, defective p, is less than 0.05, right? That was what we were looking for here. So that's so we can say the process is capable when you read the question about it. So that's the example. We worked on an example on the 4th category for the hypothesis test in this video.